Hi guys. So today we're going to talk about how to generate and convert leads. So the first half of this is going to focus on how to actually generate leads online, which to be honest, once you know how to do it is pretty easy. And then it's just a matter of actually kind of knowing the right steps and putting them into play. And then the real challenge for most is actually then how to convert them. So I want you to be able to walk away knowing not only how to generate leads, but then the framework of a plan to convert them. And that's what we're really going to focus on for most of today. So the first thing though, before we jump into kind of all the pieces about this, a little bit about who I am. So my name is Andrew Foliato. I'm the founder of Just Sell Homes, or a digital marketing agency. So I actually started as an agent, I think it was about 9 years ago now. And I tried everything. Like I was cold calling, door knocking, like classic first day on the job, hands the phone book, says start at A. That's where I kind of was when I started. And I tried it all, did 3, 4, 5 hours of prospecting a day. Door knocking, I actually got a deal on the second house I ever door knocked. And I thought this business is going to be so easy. I'm going to make it rain all year long. It's kind of also the last deal I almost got door knocking. I got like one more like a year and a half later. So door knocking really didn't work for me. But what did was blogging and Facebook ads and some of the email marketing I was doing, and really tying all those pieces together. That's what started bringing me business. And then after I did that for a bit, I actually got accepted an offer with one of the big brands to start training agents. So I ended up traveling North America training agents. And as I did that, a lot of people just started asking to hire me. And that's actually how I started the company. Ended up realizing, okay, there's actually a pretty good business here to start doing this. So we ended up starting this company, Just Sell Homes, so that you can focus on just selling homes. We'll handle the online marketing. So all this to say is everything we're talking about is stuff that's actively working right now in the market. None of this is just theory. It's stuff we've seen work and does work out there. So it's coming from a place of we've seen this work, we've seen people do it, and here's what we know, and we want to show you what works. So to begin though, I always hear this, and any company like mine or similar or is in the lead generation space is going to hear this. They have agents who come in, they're like, I was with this company, the leads were, they don't use the word weak, but we're going to keep this with using the word weak. I'm pretty sure you can guess which one, but the leads are weak. Then I went to this company, the leads were weak there. I went to this company, the leads work there. And now I'm coming to you for better leads. 99.9% of the time, the problem there is not the leads, it's with the follow-up process. And that's why I had to create that second half of today's webinar to get into that part of the process, because leads are leads. Yes, we can change some things here and there to make it slightly better quality, but at the end of the day, there's not going to be a lot of movement on that side unless you do a completely different strategy that is very content heavy and takes a lot longer to pull off, which is very valuable. But a lot of people we talk to start needing leads in today. And if you need to kind of start getting leads in right away and don't have time to build up a long-term relationship with people through your marketing, then it's going to be kind of in that 2% conversion rate on average. Good agents get up to about 5%. But even that 5% number is misleading for a lot of people, because what most people do is they convert like 2% of this year's leads. Next year, they convert another 2.5%, maybe 3% as they get better. But then they convert another about 1% of the previous year's leads. And then the next year again, they're getting a little bit better. They're 3, 4%. 1% of the year before, 1% of the year before. That's because not everyone is ready to go when they become a lead. It takes time for people to want to make that transition. And that's where you have to have a process in place to follow up with them for that whole time. So a lot of that's what we're going to talk about. But a big part that we see is just 40% of leads are actually never even connected to an agent after they opt in. Like, you'd be so shocked at how many times we hear about this where they opt in on a form hoping that someone will give them an answer and connect with them, and they don't. So the first thing you need to do is actually just pick up the phone and call, or text them or something, but make sure you're actually responding. And when you're looking at, okay, I'm generating leads, what are you doing at that point? And that's really where the backouts come. Is like we've seen it with so many clients and potential clients where, I mean, we can fill them up with leads, but then it doesn't go anywhere because they have so many holes in their follow-up process that they're leaving a lot of money on the table. So hopefully by the end of today, you'll actually be able to take a look at your processes and say, okay, here's where the holes are, here's how I can fix them. And then once you have that in place, then you can start filling in with as many leads as you can. And so that's one of the major things we want to talk about today. So at the beginning, let's talk about how you actually generate leads though. We're going to first talk about Facebook and Google, and I'm really just using Facebook here as a stand-in for all social media because the strategies that we're going to talk about today, for the most part, work across all platforms. Yes, there are a few Facebook-specific things we're going to talk about, but that's also because right now Facebook provides the lowest cost per lead, so that's where we focus a lot of time and effort on. And then Google, we'll say it's a stand-in for all search engines, but let's be honest, it's Google or bust. No one's really using Bing unless it's your grandmother who had it pre-installed and she doesn't know how to go to Google. That's the only reason people use Bing at this point. So social media, Facebook, Google. And so the main key difference here, because I will hear people say, oh, I heard the leads are better on Google, or I hear the leads are better here. Well, on Google, the reason that they are slightly higher quality leads is because it's an intent-based platform. So people are going on to Google, they're typing in 4-bedroom homes in, and I live in Newmarket, so I can use that. So 4-bedroom home in Newmarket, and then that's the traffic. They're actively looking for what you're offering. So all you really have to do is put up an ad that says search homes for sale in Newmarket, and right away, they're gonna come to your site. Now you have to bid, it's an expensive bid. So what we found is sometimes even your cost per click on Google could be the equivalent of your cost per lead on Facebook. And that's the big difference is even though Google can be a higher quality lead, Facebook's are a lot cheaper. Now there's good and bad, and in an ideal world, you're actually running both. But for most people, especially if you have a little bit more of a limited budget, we recommend starting with Facebook. In an ideal world, you're doing both, and especially with an ideal world, you're generating leads off Google, you're retargeting them with Facebook ads and vice versa, so that they're really seeing you everywhere. So Google, intent-based platform. They're looking for something specific, and you're just showing that to them. Facebook, on the other hand, people are coming there for a lot of different reasons. You know, it's political stuff, which obviously has taken off a lot in the last little while on there. Keeping up with friends from high school, you know, seeing what people ate for breakfast, all that, you know, fun stuff that people do there. And you have to interrupt that with something interesting to get their attention away from the intended purpose. So Google's intent-based, social media is interruption-based marketing. They're coming there to have a good time and to have this value and enjoy themselves and have entertainment. But you have to interrupt that and get over the hump of like, okay, I know what you came here for. This is another thing that you should do instead. And that's the main difference. So Google, in that sense, from like a creative standpoint, is not as hard, but Facebook is a little bit harder to do a good ad. Now, Google, there's a lot of benefits to Google, so this is not like, hey, you should definitely do Facebook or you should definitely do Google. There's pros and cons to both, but that's what the main difference is. Google is intent-based, social media is interruption-based marketing. So this is just an example of literally just screenshot one of our ads here. So it's for a Facebook ad for listing ads. So basically, if you want leads, we just think, what do buyers actually want? And in that case, even sellers. Is buyers and sellers both want the same thing, which is actually the next house. Even sellers, yes, they want to sell their home. They want to sell it for a lot. But most of the time, and yes, I realize there's some exceptions with investors, things like that, but most of the time, they're thinking about what's that next house that I'm going to. That's what they care about the most. It's not, you know, how do I get this part of my home done or how do I get the most? It's more like, how can I get the most so that I can buy my next house that I want? Everybody's looking for the next place they're going to live. What's that next chapter? And that's where you come in. So like ads talking about you aren't going to be that effective. Talking about a home that they're going to end up in, their end goal, that's effective. So that means listings. Listings are the cheapest source of leads you can get online, and it's not even close. Listings are amazing for getting leads. If you don't have a listing, because I know that happens, not everyone has a listing, especially in this market where they're selling fast, borrow a listing from someone in your office. The advantage of borrowing a listing is you can cherry pick. So what I mean by that is, let's say you have a townhome for sale. It's like entry level in your market. Well, the odds are someone buying that doesn't have a place to sell because it's probably their first home purchase. Whereas if you say, I'm going to go a 4-bedroom detached on a 50-foot lot, 100 feet deep, 2-car garage, odds are that's at least their second home purchase, which means they probably have to sell their current home to buy the next one. And that's really one of the things we want to look at is if we can cherry pick the type of home, let's cherry pick one that's likely to potentially produce the selling side on that as well. So if you have that ability to cherry pick a listing from someone in your office, do that, advertise it. If it's your own listing, obviously you just advertise your own listing. And if you don't have any access to either of those, the other way, you have access to MLS, advertise a list of a type of home. But still, listings outperform that. But types of homes can also work. So you can be like, get a list of detached homes with a big yard, or get a list of homes with a pool, or get a list of bungalows. Who's your ideal client? What's that type of home they want the most right now? And advertise that you can provide them with a list ongoing of those types of homes. So this is an example of some listing ads we've run. Again, this is actually the same listing, 3 variations. You can see, 93 cents a lead, $1.15 a lead, 78 cents a lead. Kind of the funny thing here is these ads aren't sexy. No one's looking at these ads being like, wow, these things are so amazingly creative and do such a good job showcasing everything. That's not the goal here. When we run an ad like this, the goal is leads, and this right now is the best way to do it. So we look at a single image. A single image will outperform a video almost every single time from a cost per lead standpoint. There's value to videos when we get into the branding side of things, but on this side of it, it's more about cost per lead right now if your goal is leads. So we, with an image, will average about $1 to $3 a lead. With a video, it's closer to $4 to $8 a lead. So here what we do is we pick a single image. We always pick one of the outside, and then usually like nicer parts of the home. As you see here, we actually just took random ones because sometimes, like you can see on the far right, that random shot there is actually one of the better performing shots. 78 cents a lead, that's pretty good. That's name, email, and phone number of someone looking to buy or sell. So we literally just put in a little bit of information like, are you looking for a beautiful 3+3 bedroom family home in West Lincoln? We're not trying to throw so much information into this ad that they kind of see everything, but we also don't want to make it so broad that they know nothing about the house. So you're giving them a little bit. I always like to use the analogy of, think of this like a movie trailer. We are showing them enough to get them interested, but their ticket to see the whole thing is their name, email, and phone number. That's how the easiest way to generate leads. For every person that we work with, you'll have to decide on your own how much information to give them versus not. For example, if you take the price out of the ad, you will get cheap leads. If you take the price out, you'll also get a lot of angry comments. You have to decide, is that something you want to deal with or not? There's not really a right or wrong. It's kind of like, how do you want to do and how does your brand want to feel in the eyes of the consumer? And that's up to you, but know that if you withhold most of the information, you're going to make people angry. So look at it from that perspective. If you were the consumer going through this, how would you feel going through this? Is that a feeling you want to give people? And that's one of the ways to do it. But if you want leads, the easiest way, give them enough, like a movie trailer, to get them interested, understand kind of the basic highlights of the home, and then go. If you do actually want to get a copy, the template I train my staff with to run listing ads, we do make available for free to anyone who wants it. So you can just shoot me a message, or I can include a link on the page here when you actually watch this that will have a link over to that, and you can download it yourself anytime you want. On the other side of this, forced registration. If you're going to run Google ads, you need forced registration on your website. The ads I just showed you on Facebook, we used what's called a Facebook lead ad. So it actually registers them on Facebook and then sends them to your site. Well, if you're running Google ads, Google does have a lead form version of their campaign, but they're not as effective as the Facebook ones. So generally, if you want to run Google ads and have predictable leads, you gotta have to turn on forced registration. The downside of this is Google does not actually like forced registration, so it won't kind of hurt your SEO a little bit. It might not hurt it, it's not definitive, but it definitely won't help it. So someone who has their site open will beat you on SEO, but you can get a very predictable flow of leads. If it were me and I were doing a forced registration site, I would make it a separate site from my main one. because again, it'll hurt your SEO, and I would rather have my main site not have that. So I would have like essentially a shadow site that has forced registration to generate predictable leads, and then have my main site be more open for people to take a look at. And that's kind of the easier way to set it up. But again, it's similar, like, is this an experience you're okay giving people? And there's different levels, right? Like you can do, like, you can't look at anything before you register. You could look at 3 photos. You could look at 3 properties before it forces you to register. The longer you delay that registration, the less leads you're going to get. But in theory, the higher quality they are. And that's kind of, again, for you, you have to find the right part there for your business. Again, like you're saying, listings are the easiest way to get leads because everybody cares about their next house. And that's what you're giving them here. If you don't want to leverage listings, or you want to go straight on a seller offer, do things where you offer value to them. And the easiest way to do that is something like this. So for example, when I first started this company, we were talking to our first client, and I was asking, like, what do your sellers care about? What do they care about? And we kept going on and on about that. And it kept coming back to price. They want to know what price they're going to get. The price. And we're like, actually, do you mind? Can we send a survey to like a 40, 50 of your past clients? This is a pretty busy team, so it was all from that year. And we said, okay, send us like this survey. And I believe I can't remember exactly how many. It was about 4 or 5 questions. And interestingly, what 70% of the responses came back not talking about price, but they actually all brought up the same thing, which is the stress around preparing their home for sale, because they knew preparing their home for sale would get them a higher price, but they didn't know how to do it. So we created 2 or 3 page checklist that walked through how to prepare your home for sale. It was pretty straightforward. We knew that was the problem they had, was preparing their home for sale. That's what caused them stress. Let's solve that stress with a little giveaway. The added bonus for something like a 2-3 page checklist on how to get your home ready for sale versus say, oh, what's my home worth? What's my home worth? You'll get a lot of leads coming in that aren't thinking about selling. But with this, even if you're 2 years out, the odds are you're not going to download this unless you're actually thinking of selling. So it's a great little tool to also get people to put up their hand who are thinking about selling. So think of like from a lead magnet standpoint, and literally all a lead magnet is something you give in exchange for their contact information, as in like you are attracting the lead, and to get that, you have to give them an email, phone number. And whatever you give has to be enough to kind of cross that pain threshold of, I know these people are going to contact me and follow up with me, but that's okay. I'm willing to put up with that because what they're giving me is so valuable. And so like you get to think, is what I'm offering them of that value? An 80-page ebook doesn't have that value. What has value is something specific. There's a guy named Nicholas Kuzmich who came up with what's called the SAGE principle. So when you're creating a lead magnet, it should be short. So we're talking like 2-3 pages. Keep it short. Should be actionable. So in this case, it's like go around your house, get it ready for sale how we're telling you. It's very, very specific on that front. Goal oriented, again, get your home ready for sale to get the most money possible for it. You have a very specific goal in mind here. And then E in the SAGE is for easy to consume. So a short PDF, an 80-page PDF is not easy to consume. A 2 or 3 page one is. So we just remember the SAGE principle: short, actionable, goal-oriented, and easy to consume. And that's how we try to structure all of our lead magnets. So think about like what you do. I bet you could all right now pause this, sit down, and just write out like 3 things someone could go home today right now and do. And if they did that, their home would either sell quicker or for more money. Doesn't have to be for like tens of thousands. It could be for $500. It'd be like, go paint your baseboards white, do some landscaping out front, declutter, right? Like you don't need to come up with these wildly complicated ideas, but it's like, here's something small you can go do right now. That's what you want to focus on. And then what I call the double dip offer, which I literally only call it this because I am a big Seinfeld fan. And here's what you do. So one of the worst things that any marketer does, this is not specific to real estate, this is essentially specific to every marketer out there, is that what most people do, they say, okay, download, for example, my guide on how to prepare your home for sale. It goes to the thank you page, it says, thanks, we'll be in touch. That's it. That's the equivalent of going up to someone in the bar and be like, hi, I'm Andrew, what's your name? And they're like, hi, I'm Amanda. And you're like, great, see you later, I'll be in touch. You haven't even gotten like to know them at all. Like, can I buy you a drink? what do you do for a living? Whatever it is. Like, talk to them, build a relationship. And that's where this page can come in handy. If you don't put something there, you're essentially just walking away after they've talked to you and given you their name. On this page, we give them something else. So if they opted in on a home prep guide, right away now we already know they're thinking of selling their home. Now we might offer them a home value. So they come on the page like the offer that, the home prep guide is going to be in your inbox in a few minutes. Here's what to do next. Find out what your home would sell for if you were to list it for sale today. Fill out the form below, and someone on our team will get back to you with a custom-made report on the value of your home if you were to actually list it for sale. And that type of thing has a lot of value. And then they opt into that, you can send them to another one and another. There's no end to the number of secondary offers you can make. And then eventually you can either send them just to search for homes on a specific page, or if you don't want to do that, you could then just send them to client testimonials. But don't just drop it and say, thanks, we'll be in touch. Add more, add more. This is the start of your relationship with them. Put something out there and provide them as much value as possible. This ad here, I just wanted to use an example. You don't have to be able to read it. Is that long form advertising does work. And this is an example of one where this was actually seller focused campaign that got quality seller leads for $12.06. And you can tell from the text there, it's a long ad. And the reason people have this idea of people have short attention spans on the internet, and to be honest, that's a bunch of BS. Yes, people do have short attention spans, but they'll also binge 10 hours of Netflix straight. So what they actually have is a short consideration span. There's so much noise out there that people are deciding 1, 2, 3 seconds if they're going to keep going to something. This tells them, okay, start with something interesting, okay? And then what we do is we actually answer every objection they might have. And it's an interesting idea. So the idea behind this ad was, we have buyers who need a home. They don't want to compete anymore. Nothing on the market's working for them. So we ran an ad that was basically just sell your home without having to put it on the market. You don't have to have hundreds of people walking through your home, deal with all that drama of getting it prepped and doing all that. You can just sell it to one of our buyers. They'll make you an offer. And then we thought, okay, there's going to be objections to this. One of the objections obviously is well, if I don't put it on the open market, I'm not going to have as much money. So we asked that. And we literally said well, if you put it on the market, I might not make as much money. And we actually say, yes, it's possible. If you sell privately, you wouldn't make as much money as if you did make it open. On that same token, it's possible they'll overpay you to keep it off the market. All we can promise is to show the buyer your home, show you comparable properties and what they've sold for, and then our buyer, if they're interested, will make you an offer. At that point, you can choose to accept it or not. If you say no, we part there as friends. If you do want to talk to us then about listing it on the open market to see if you can get more, we're happy to have that conversation at that time. So it's very open. There's no hiding. We literally just sit there and what is every objection someone's going to have? Write it out and put it in the ad. That long form, because it's interesting and there's no fluff, gets attention and it works. And the key here is we took out all the possible fluff from the ad. There's nothing extra here that doesn't belong. It all gets to the point. And that's how you can focus on long form that actually works, is every single line is intentional and has a point to be there. Here's another example of some ads that can work. And this one, for example, is a client of ours who does pre-construction for investors specifically. So we first did, a master class, which was see how I turn my initial deposit into $1 million real estate portfolio. If you watch this, you get an idea of exactly what you have to do. And what we found is most people who watched that had already kind of started in investing and wanted to take it up a notch. And that's where the second ad came in, retargeted to people seeing the first ad and saying, do you want to see how to turn 1 condo into 3? We specialize in helping people invest. And then it's basically, we'll review your real estate portfolio. And if you don't think that the plan that we can come up with to make you more money off it is good, you don't have to do anything with us. But we're going to look at your portfolio with you, and we will present what we think we can help to make it better. Very, very easy thing to do. On the organic side of generating leads, the best place we've seen for that is actually Instagram stories. So this is where you can come in and say, okay, Instagram, I actually love it, especially with listings or other things you're doing where you utilize the stickers that are built in. One of them is a question box, and you can see that on the far right here. So it says drop your email here. That question box is a built-in Instagram feature that's actually meant for people to like leave a question for you to answer in like the next one. But there's no reason you can't use it to have them put their contact information in. So show them some previews of a listing, then drop the question box being like, do you want more information about this listing? Fill out the box here. The very easy way to get more leads coming in. So take advantage of that. It can work really well. Most people that I know who get consistent business from Instagram comes from the story side of things. A lot of that's because it's very organic, one-to-one conversations. People don't have to put themselves out there on a private post. Literally all they have to do is hit reply and they immediately start having a private conversation. And so all you have to do is put things in that prompts conversations to get started. And it can be really, really effective. Now that we've talked about generating leads again, offer them a piece of value that's actionable, or a listing, or a type of like list of homes that they could potentially move into. You will get your leads. It's pretty straightforward at that point. If you do run some ads, you're not sure, I can send you a link at the end. Actually, I'm happy to take a look at your ads. We offer a free 15-minute review. So if it's not quite, you're trying to run some of those, it's not working, let me know, book some time in with me. No pitching on it, maybe a light one at the end, but I will first actually look at your ads, tell you how to do them better, help you execute it, and then at some point, if you do want us to take it over, that's where that would come in, but enough about that. Let's get into converting leads. This is the biggest part, because we hear this all the time, like agents keep talking about lead generation. Like this is this big mountain to climb. And what you'll find is as people kind of start doing it and get up there, they see the real challenge. The real challenge is conversion. You need to look at, and like we see so many people who give up. Like they get to that point, they're generating leads, and then they just say online leads don't work, and they fall down the backside of the mountain. It's because it's a conversion problem. It's not a lead problem. So you need a proven plan to go from one to the other. And that's what we want to show you today, is actually the effective follow-up plan to get from one to the next and actually grow your business. Because if you don't have that, you are going to go through so much pain of tumbling down the mountainside and then trying to climb back up at the same time while you're still spending money to bring these leads in. Whereas if you have an effective plan in place, it's going to save you a lot of time, a lot of money. So to oversimplify our entire lead follow-up strategy, it's create more conversations. Specifically, create more conversations about real estate. We want people to respond and engage with you and start talking, because like they say, the average person, they're not going to move 5 to 7 years. Well, if they're not going to move for 5 to 7 years, the odds of your ad convincing them to move are very small. So all you're trying to do is get people talking about real estate, talking to you, thinking about you when they're doing real estate. And the more conversations you have here, the more you stay top of mind with them. And for example, they might not move, but their friend might move in, and now you're top of mind because you've been talking to them about real estate. And then when they do decide to make that move, you're top of mind because you've had so many conversations with them. So when you're thinking about what are you doing, will this create a conversation with a potential client? That's all. When you're doing this, will this help me create a conversation? If you can't say this will lead to a conversation, there's no point in doing it. So the first phase, so there's 2 phases of lead follow-up. There's the initial, a lead's generated. I need to get in touch with them. I need to follow up with them. I need to convert them. Find those people looking to move now. 80% aren't looking to move soon, or more, could even be higher. But only a small, maybe 10 to 15% are actually looking to move in the next month or 2, or the next 3 months. The rest are going to be further out. And there's a guy named Dean Jackson who I'll actually talk a bit about later as well. And he did a study with an agent. I believe it was Tony Kelsey in Scarborough, I believe is who he did it with. And they looked at leads over a period of time. And it was like after 5 years, all the leads they generated in year 1, 50% of them had moved after 5 years. So the first 12 months, they had their leads come in. And in year 5, they went back and looked. They searched and found them all. 50% had moved. They obviously didn't move with that agent, but it shows that like people who are inquiring and getting into this, they're planning a move. It's just, is your follow-up good enough to get them? So this initial follow-up, when it comes in, has one goal. It's to get them to talk to you. Some people get way too in-depth. All you're trying to do here initially is get them to answer. So I always like to use the example of retail stores. If you walk into a retail store and they say something like, Hi, can I help you? Most people pre-programmed without even thinking about just saying, no thanks, just browsing. Even if you actually could use a help, for some reason people just say, no, I'm just looking. And they found that in retail stores, if they come in instead of saying that and say, what brings you in here today? Their sales will go up 40%. Because what happens by saying that, it's not what you're used to hearing. It doesn't sound like a sales pitch. What brings you in here today? And you'd be like, oh, I'm searching for a gift for my 5-year-old. Great, follow me and I'll show you kind of the section where you can find some stuff for your 5-year-old, right? Like, and they can have that conversation with them about what they're actually looking for. So take that same approach for you. So instead of like, someone inquires about one of your listings, don't just say, here's that information you were looking for. Let me know if you have any questions. That's an easy thing to ignore. If you said, here's the information, by the way, are you looking at this for yourself or as an investment property, right? You're asking a question that's specific to it. And you can also, ask them things like, is it the home that interests you or the neighborhood? Is it the home or the price point? Like, ask them specific questions that aren't yes or no. You want to get them talking. You want to learn about them. That's the key. Is you're trying to learn as much information about them. But the first step is just you put a single question into a text, a phone call, whatever it is. All you're trying to do is get them to answer you. And the way that we look at it is phone as quick as possible. Like, obviously the first 30 seconds is ideal, not realistic for everyone, but first 30 seconds is what you're trying to hit. If not that, at least try the first 5 minutes because your odds of converting them drop dramatically after that. So hit them really quick. If they don't pick up the phone, don't leave a voicemail. Hang up, send them a text message, introduce yourself and why you're there. Again, ask that simple question, and then you email them. A lot of this can be automated with the right systems, but if you're doing it manually right now, phone call, no voicemail, text them, email them. Again, simple message with one question. You don't put multiple questions because they're probably only going to answer one anyways. So you put those in there and try to get that reply, get that conversation started. If you're having these texts or emails back and forth and they're responding 30 seconds, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, and it's a very quick back and forth, you can send a little email. It's like, hey, we're doing a lot of back and forth here. We can probably solve this in 5 minutes on the phone. Would you be okay to jump on the phone, or would you prefer to keep texting? Give them that option, because for all you know, they could be at work and they can't pick up the phone, but they're happy to text. That's fine. You let them dictate how to do it there, and you'll find that you have a higher conversion rate. But the key here is give them that option to solve this quicker by getting on the phone. But if they prefer it, they can do that, because especially when you're looking at younger generations, they like that sense of control, of controlling how they're communicating. That's why sometimes you'll get the right email address but the wrong phone number, because they want to make sure that you're not talking to them on the phone, but they're still okay engaging with you over email. And that's where it's like, if you don't call, don't leave a voicemail and ask them to call you back. You leave a text message, and then they can start the conversation at that point with you over text. Very easy to do, and it's just being consistent about it. What we do often like to pair this with at this point is also an aggressive short-term retargeting strategy. So that's when you get a lead through the Facebook ad platform, we'll say for the first 3 days, see this ad about hiring us. And then, day 4 to 7, show them this ad, 7 to 10, show them this ad. But we basically do a short-term window of just hire us, hire us, hire us. And obviously we do it tastefully. We show value. We're showing why they should hire us, putting in client testimonials, different things like that. But the idea here is that they're seeing these just after they became a lead. They're seeing the value you can provide. All you're trying to do here is get people to put up their hand who are ready to go now. Once you get past that initial window, whether you choose 3 days, 5 days, 7 days, once you get past that, then you get more into the value relationship building content, because at the beginning, you're just trying to get them to put up their hand and say, yeah, I'm thinking of moving. If they're not, then you get into the rest of it of more your long-term follow-up. And when you're doing this initial follow-up as well, this is another Dean Jackson principle. I know I mentioned him a lot because he's just a brilliant marketer. But he wants, and what he says, you want to identify the 5-star prospects. And what makes someone a 5-star prospect is they're willing to engage with you, they're friendly and cooperative, they know what they want, they know when they want, and they actually want your help to do it. So just think about the leads. Do they check off these 5? And that's what these conversations, when they're engaging with you, is all about, is getting them to check off all 5 of these. The first one's really easy. They pick up the phone and they're actually talking to you instead of telling you where to go. Are they nice and answering your questions? That's a great person. Do they know what they actually want yet? Or do they know when they want it? What's their timeline? But then do they actually want your help? Because for all you know, they check the first 4 perfectly, but their mother-in-law is an agent, they have to use her. Sometimes you can't get over that hump, but maybe they can refer you other businesses or other friends of theirs who might be willing. Like I remember when I sold, I got a bunch of referrals from someone who literally his mother-in-law was an agent, so he had to use her, but would refer me as friends because he knew I could do a good job, and that was more important than referring to his mother-in-law. But for him personally, obviously, he had to use her. So when you're looking at the leads that are coming in, when you're trying to find the 5-star prospects, run them through this filter of do they check off all 5 of these. And then one thing they can do is you're building your list. And what I mean by that is you're building a list of people for future marketing as well. So when you generate that lead, the goal here is now I have these people. Like if someone opts in on a 4-bedroom detached home, the next time you have a 4-bedroom detached home coming up on the market, email them and say, hey, last time you asked about this property, I actually have a similar one coming up next week. Would you like the details? Now you have these people to already sell to. It's a fantastic way to get in front. So you, instead of like trying to like get a house and list it for sale and then try to find people, build this list of people that when you have something to sell them, you already have people to go to with it. It'll make your life a lot easier. It'll make your conversion better, and they'll like you more because you're constantly providing that value, and they know like, okay, maybe this listing on the 4-bedroom in this part of town isn't useful, but keep me in the loop about anything else like that, especially because to them it's more of like an off market because it hasn't come up yet on the market, but it will be coming up in the near future. And this is another example of a list building ad. This is the Charlton Advantage team, Chuck and Melissa Charlton, great agents. Basically, and they do like a daily version and a weekly version. It's basically just, sign up for our email list, and we're going to show you the good and the bad about Milton real estate. So they're going to show you like, here's why you might want to buy this home, maybe why you want to avoid this one. But it's this simple way that you can sign up anytime and get their unfiltered truth opinions about the Milton real estate market. It's a great way to do it. I mean, if I went back to sales, I would definitely start basically a very similar prospect. But for me, I would set up ads to drive people to build my list of people in the community so that when I do have things I want to promote, I already have these people and I've been providing them so much value over the years, they want to stay on. Then my ideal follow-up, a lot of agents send like maybe a monthly email. That's not enough. Like especially when we're talking about lead follow-up. Like if you want to talk about like your hardcore database and if you want to only email them once a month, you can probably get away with it. But especially with leads, like if I generate a lead today and yesterday I sent out my monthly email and I don't send them another email for a month, they've forgotten about me by then. Weekly emails, as long as they're good, and this is the key, is they have to be good. They can't just be, the latest pumpkin pie recipe, because most people don't care about that, right? Like it's what's a piece of value that I can give them regularly. The easiest one, deal of the week, notable solds. You don't have to overcomplicate. Be like, hey, here's a couple listings on the market right now that I think are great deals. Here's why I think they're great deals. And by the way, here's some recent solds in the neighborhood that you might want to take note of. Very easy email to send, but you have to add your expertise into it. Otherwise, they can just go somewhere else and get the stats. You need to provide your interpretation, your expertise, and show them why they want to keep subscribing to it. Like you'll notice like we have a newsletter that we send out once a week, and our pitch is like become the smartest agent in the room in 10 minutes once a week. You would take that same approach for yours, like become the smartest new market homeowner about the new market real estate in 10 minutes once a week. People will read that, they'll look forward to it. That's the thing they forward to their friends and has real value. And that's what you want to look at. This is another one, just because I mentioned him again, I wanted to bring him up. Dean Jackson, he has a great way to revive dead leads. And when I say dead leads, I mean like 3 months or older that have never engaged with you or stopped engaging with you. The very first time we tested this with a client, we sent out 309 emails to 309 different people. 10 of them responded 3 deals. And these were all leads that had been older than 3 months that had never responded to anything. There's another guy, Justin Conoco in London. He sent this out to over 1,000 agents on Tuesday morning when he heard me talking about it. And he actually had to call his whole team in later that day because he ended up booking like 40 calls with people who were responding to this email. It's a very simple email. So if it was for me, again, I live in Newmarket. So what I would do is I'd make the subject line homes in Newmarket. And all the email says is, hi, are you still looking to buy a home in Newmarket? straight to the point, starts a conversation, gets things going, and it's going to make your life a lot easier because you're going to start bringing these leads in. I recommend to set a quarterly reminder to grab those dead leads, send them a 9-word email. You reminds it how many times they can bring back 1 or 2 of these dead leads as a consistent flow of business. It's an easy way. And you can do things like this also with your database, like once a year at the beginning of the year, a quick Happy New Year. Are you planning to move this year? Gets it done. It's easy to ignore if they're not, but if they are, they can respond and again start that conversation with you. And then one of the most important things here, and I've seen this happen a few times, is don't forget about your people in your database. Because everything you're doing from a lead generation standpoint, to be honest, the goal here is to find people to add to your database. Your business is going to be built on the back of your database. It's the most valuable thing you can have. And all you're doing from a lead generation standpoint is adding people to it. Like I remember we had this client one time who had an inside sales rep. And he didn't tell me, and what he did for 3 months was he had the ISA spend half the time calling his database, half the time calling the leads, and after 3 months, whichever one got more business, they were going to focus 100% of their time on. And I was like, when he told me, I was like, you didn't even have to do this test. I could have told you right now, calling your database is going to get you a higher return than leads. The goal with lead generation is to add people to your database. That's where the money is. So you're looking at these leads to find the good ones to add to your database so that you can have this database of people who become the backbone of your business. So while you're doing this, don't forget about those people while you're building your business up. It's really important not to forget about that. So that's one thing I just wanted to really hammer here is your goal here is to add people to your database, but your database is still the backbone of your business. These are some book recommendations. These are ones that I like to revisit, to be honest, very regularly. First one there, Exactly What to Say. Phil's great. He actually even has wrote another version called Exactly What to Say for Real Estate Agents. I think they're both great. I've used his exact words many times, and they have a proven higher conversion rate for me. The best social media book ever, How to Win Friends and Influence People, was written before social media existed, but one of the best ways to learn how to get success on social is follow the principles in there and just apply them to social. And the other 2 ones are very focused on the customer experience, how to build loyalty in customers, essentially working your database is never lose a customer again. The Be Our Guest one is more on the service you're providing, and there's just some great examples in it that I really, really like. So I always just like to leave you with something that, there's a lot we talked about today, but when you have some time, read these as well. One of the big things here too is there's a lot of different things. You don't have to implement these all at once. Pick one thing, implement it, get it ready to go. When it's done, then bring in the next one. But one thing at a time, even if it takes you a year to get the system done, it's better than trying to do everything at once and then end up doing nothing. If you do have any questions about how we can help you do any of this, feel free to go to justsellhomes.com. We can answer your questions, anything you want, just let us know. But go to justsellhomes.com, you can ask questions. And like I mentioned earlier in the webinar, if you do want to have us review your Facebook ads to see if you can do them better or talk to us about anything, bookandrew.ca will take you to my calendar and you can book any open time that you want. So if you have any other questions, book a call with me, connect with me on Facebook or Instagram, send me an email, andrew@justsellhomes.com. But I hope you guys found some value from today. And if you have any questions at all, feel free to reach out. We're always here to help you, and I appreciate your time watching this.